taken a brief, I've done my research, I've sketched ideas, prepared concept presentation sheets, and made models, so I'm ready to present my concepts to a client. The purpose of any type of product design presentation is to convey enough good information to help the recipient make a favourable choice. What concept to take forward to production? Do I employ this person from their portfolio? It's all about telling a story, and hopefully, if you've seen previous episodes, you'll know that story runs through everything. In this episode, I'm focusing on a concept design presentation, which is usually given to a small group. This is good news if you get nervous, but if the group's big or small, the processes and techniques are the same. We are all capable of being good, if not excellent presenters, but the mistake we can all make with presentations, because we're so close to the project, is to assume that the client will understand our designs in the same way as us. Because we put so much effort into the design, because to us it's now obvious how it works, we can forget that we still have to present it to the client. How much easier would it be to just walk into a room, slap your designs on a table and walk out to rapturous applause? But it will never happen this way. You have to present it. And why wouldn't you want to? It's your greatest opportunity to tell the client what's good about your ideas, to get your designs made. It's easy to get caught up in telling people what you've done. So I started drawing lots of angles, and then I slipped and I created this curve, and I thought, hey, that looks cool, so I refined it, and this is the design. But the client will probably not be interested in your curve. They will be thinking about Whiffam. What's in it for me? How can I impress my bosses with this? Can we sell this? Will this improve our company's bottom line? Would I buy this? Would my wife buy this for our kids? And that's where your presentation should be directed. Emphasize why your concept is better in a way that will make the client care. So what it took me ages to understand was that a presentation doesn't begin when you sit down in front of the client with a set of drawings, or when you're preparing those drawings a week before. It starts the moment you first meet the client. You need to build relationships. One key to this is to just be interested in the client. People are interesting, and with just about everything in life, things always go far better if you show you're interested in them. I once saw a quote by Bill Nye: "Everyone you will ever meet knows something you don't." So before the presentation, keep talking to your main contact, keep them updated with progress, be interested in what they're up to and their suggestions. Good design, good relationships, good business is about continuous communication. Ask your main contact who will be at the presentation, what are their job roles, and what's their stake in the project. This is so that you can better tailor your presentation to the client's needs, fears, and desires. And find out the names of the people attending. Remembering names is really important, and unfortunately, it's my kryptonite. I feel much more confident walking into a room having already memorised the attendees' names, so that even if someone new joins, it reduces the amount of work I have to do. Knowing you're presenting to important people can faze you, but remembering their names and knowing what to expect allows you to prepare and so helps you control nerves. For a concept presentation to a client, you're rarely, if ever, just presenting one design, but a number of options before development. How many to present and their order depends on numerous factors, but you have to consider too little choice can leave you with little to talk about and your client feeling shortchanged. Too much choice and the client can be too confused about which direction to go in. Organising your presentation from mild to wild, or saving the best for last, or putting your strongest designs in the middle of your presentation are all options, and it's going to be different for each presentation, so you just have to get a feel for it, but it needs to be about balance. In episode 3 and 4, I looked at sketching and preparing presentation boards. Depending on the design's complexity, I lay my presentation out from left to right in a logical way, putting what I want to talk about in order, 1, 2, 3. This is the product. These are important details. This is how it would be used. You can do this on one or separate pages. It just depends on how you're presenting. And you don't have to do it this way. There aren't any rules, but this is what's worked for me in the past. When I sketch out my presentation sheets, I'm thinking about how I'll tell the story. This is the one thing that dictates their layout and the viewing angles I choose. I try to choose angles that best explain and draw the viewer's attention to key points. So try not to add a view or a note unless it adds value, because there's not much point in adding two similar views just for the sake of composition. I've often been guilty of adding a designly arrow and a few poor words because I think it will improve the balance of my composition or hide a mistake. And there's nothing wrong with pointing out a feature, material, texture, or manufacturing process. But done well, a good note will strengthen your presentation, acting as a prompt. If you've ever worked for a sales team, you'll know all about FAB: features, advantages, and benefits. A feature is a detail of the product. An advantage explains what the feature is or does, and a benefit describes how the feature and advantage relate to the client or end user. So here, for this torch detail, I could write on-off button, or, slightly better, recessed on-off button, which is a feature of the overall design. But the standard power symbol tells the viewer it's an on-off button. So with a little thought, I can build on this. Recessed to reduce accidental activation. This is an advantage and a far better note. One of the benefits of this advantage would be prolongs battery life, but you can't say or write a benefit on its own. If I write prolongs battery life, it doesn't mean anything to the viewer, so you have to link features, advantages, and benefits together. The whole thing could say recessed to reduce accidental activation, which prolongs battery life and makes location easier in the dark. This tells the viewer so much more, but it's a bit long to use as a note, so each note will be different for each design. But in this case, I choose to just write the advantage and then use the drawing view and note to prompt me to talk through the benefit in my presentation. It's not just design details, but materials, shapes, user interfaces, colours, they all have features, advantages and benefits. Don't forget, as well as additions, does this, improves that, benefits can also be reductions, reduces weight, reduces manufacturing time. So try to make your notes and what you say link the feature through to the benefits tailored for that client or their customers. It makes any presentation far more powerful and memorable, but also gives you a lot more to say, even with simple products. Don't cover the entire presentation sheet with notes. Only highlight the top 3 to 5 most important points, and then no matter what, make sure you point them out to the client, emphasising the benefits, so that whatever happens, if things don't go to plan, you will always have delivered the most valuable pieces of information. Also, never forget your contact in the company may not be the boss, and they may need to take your presentation to show their superiors. Noting the most important advantages on your presentation, backed up with benefits, will make your presentation easier for others to remember and present. A picture is worth 1,000 words and a model or prototype worth 1,000 pictures. If you have the opportunity to take a prototype in with you, why wouldn't you? Even a really quick, really rough one can be incredibly helpful for demonstration and explanation. The prototype proves the function, and the presentation sheet shows how you imagine it will look. I will always present prototypes if I can. Hopefully you'll see that individual presentation layers on their own are weak, but building up layers, the drawing, the layout, the views and details you choose, the notes, the model, they build on top of each other to strengthen the power of your story, doing a lot of the work for you. So finally, what you say and how you deliver should be the icing on the cake. There are a lot of people who get nervous when they're giving a presentation, and often when we get nervous we hear a wobble in our voice, which we notice even when no one else can, and we go a bit flat and it starts a chain reaction, getting worse, and before we know it we're talking in a weird voice and we speed up because now we want to get to the end as fast as possible, get out of the building and never go back, so we start talking faster and faster. As soon as this starts to happen, I found 2 things help. You've got to remember to breathe properly. Take deep breaths, and there are relaxation techniques that can really help. Before you present, and sometimes during, consciously make yourself relax your shoulders, push them down. Just try it. There's lots of advice out there about speaking at a certain pace, and there's nothing wrong with speeding up a little when you get passionate about something. But after you've delivered a paragraph, don't be afraid of a little pause. Take a breath. It gives the client a little time to process the information, and it helps you relax, control your pace, and makes you sound less nervous. Also, be aware of your posture and how your body language can say a lot about you. If you're presenting in too relaxed a position, it can give the impression that you don't care. One of the best ways to control nerves is to rehearse, but having worked on a project for a few weeks, and with deadlines being so tight, you can leave yourself little time to prepare. So the temptation is to skip the practice and try to wing it. A little preparation goes a long way, especially if presenting is not your strong point. Plan and practice, and prepare to be flexible and adaptable. If you decide to present electronically, still take printouts with you. They take 5 minutes to print, but if you have any hardware or software failures, you're always ready. And be adaptable. Business is constantly changing. Sometimes there's a crisis, calling your client away so that an hour meeting may suddenly change so that you only have 10 minutes to present. The best presentations make people care and appeal to their emotions. Making people care is far easier when you're designing a medical device that will save people's lives. But what about something really ordinary? Don't ask why, but I've chosen to demonstrate this with a pizza cutter. In the past, I've been guilty of giving lots of fact-based presentations that went something like this. The brief asked me to design a pizza cutter to appeal to gadget lovers and have shelf presence in a crowded market. This design is a mezzaluna style device that the user can rock their way through a pizza, and the blade can be tessellated in manufacture. A nice feature is that the handle can flip round to become the blade cover. This style is really dry, really fact feature based, without a benefit in sight. It's the sort you give when you haven't had time to prepare, and it's over pretty quickly. By only pointing out features, I burn up the fuel of my presentation really fast. Creating a fab matrix for each concept to work out benefits doesn't take much time and will be an instant improvement. Even if you're tired, you have to put life into your delivery, sound passionate, hold people's attention, make it emotional and memorable. As part of the continued development of a range of kitchen utensils, my brief was to design a pizza cutter that appealed to gadget lovers and had shelf presence in what's already a really competitive market. Personally, there are few things that beat sharing a pizza when you're around a friend's house watching the rugby. It's part of the ritual. And one of the things my research identified is that a lot of people are now going out and they're buying a standard pizza with a cheese and tomato topping. And then when they get home, they're adding additional toppings, either to save money or to get the pizza that they want. And this is known as Frankensteining. But the problem with Frankensteining is you're adding topping on top of a cheese layer, and in the oven that cheese layer melts and becomes really liquid. So what my user observational research showed was that when the consumer takes the pizza out of the oven and they go to chop it up with either a knife or with a pizza wheel, there is a tendency to drag topping off crust, and nobody wants to drag topping off crust. So I identified an opportunity to design a pizza cutter that applied much more of a downward force to easily cut up the pizza without dragging topping. So all the concepts that I'm going to show to you today are based on a mezzaluna style device that allows the user to rock rather than roll their way through a pizza. This first concept has an easy grip over center handle that allows the user to put more pressure down through the palm of their hand through the blade to easily cut through thick crusts. A nice feature is that the handle can be removed for ease of cleaning and then flipped round to form the blade cover, which saves parts and expense in manufacture. The blade can also be tessellated in manufacture to maximise sheet usage and save wastage. Now, this is a larger blade area than your existing product, so it will be more expensive in terms of steel. But I know one of the things that you mentioned was that you were interested in maybe selling this to marketing companies who would then brand it up and use it as corporate gifting for sporting events. So a large billboard area on this design does give you good opportunities in this area. Not only can the blade be used to chop pizza, but it can also be used for other food preparation and baking. So this gives you the opportunity to catalogue it in different places in your catalogue and your retailers' catalogues, and hopefully increased cataloguing and search results from the internet will lead to improved sales. I think strategically it will be important to have something like this in your core range. Pete, I know I've got to present this to the directors later, so I've put on the back of each one of these sheets a features, advantages and benefits list for you to help you out. This next design I've termed the pizza rocket because of its shape when folded. It can be displayed upright on shelf, which means you're going to be able to display more in the in-store shelf space that you rent or in the POS systems that you have. I think if you were to stick with the pizza rocket, as I'm suggesting, with a nice tagline and the right packaging, that will really give you the eye-catching shelf presence that you wanted. So just as an example, I've done a quick piece of packaging to demonstrate because I know, oops, it was upside down, because this will just show you where I was thinking of going. There you go. There's a couple of safety features on this design that I think are really useful. One is when folded up, this blade edge is protected by its counterpart, which has the dull side. So when folded, it'll be difficult for the consumer to cut their hands on when taking it out of the drawer. And when opened out, there's a really nice positive locking feature to increase consumer confidence. Also, I was thinking about incorporating, if we choose to develop this, a unlocking feature in the same way as the scissors have a twist unlock feature for ease of cleaning. Once folded out, this presents a really large, nice curved blade, so you can more quickly and easily chop your way through the pizza to get back to the game as fast as possible, because you can guarantee your team are going to score whilst you're in the kitchen preparing the food. I've been to restaurants with open kitchens and I've seen chefs using similar equipment to this. So not only does this have the authenticity to appeal to home cooks who like to use professional equipment, but I think this also has the added advantage of being able to be sold to professional establishments, pizza restaurants and takeaways. This third option is a unique blade shape, which is that point of difference and USP in a competitive market, and I think will allow you to distance yourselves from only being able to compete on price. It's got a really nice large over-center handle, still with a large branding area, and the blade is triangular in shape, so each edge is slightly curved in that mezzaluna style. This creates a continuous blade to cut through the longest of pizzas really easily, in the same way as a pizza wheel is a continuous blade, but unlike a pizza wheel, because of its shape, this means that each time you roll the blade, you're creating that downward force to cut through pizza, hopefully without dragging topping. This is the same with herbs. You can really quickly and easily rock your way back and forth through herbs to make other food preparation really fast. The blade is detachable and comes out in a cradle for ease of cleaning and safe handling. And I think with this device, it will be important to include some form of blade cover, which will be a good safety feature, but also an additional part that you need to factor into your costs. So those are the three concepts. Now, I know you have to present those to your board of directors, but hopefully once we get feedback from them, we can take these into CAD and produce prototypes to get in front of your consumer research team. Always take a little time after your presentation to reflect on where you could improve, and don't take feedback personally. It's not about you, it's about the design and about getting it right for everyone involved. For you, this may be a 2-month project, but for the company, this may be the difference between success or having to make people redundant. So, of course, there will be strong opinions. Finally, in a design consultancy, especially small ones, one of the biggest problems can be getting continual work. When you're working on a project, you're too busy to look for new work, but when the project ends, if you don't have anything lined up, you have to start looking for new business whilst the company isn't making any money. Whether we think so or not, we all have a responsibility to be salespeople. So after your presentation, you're making small talk with the client and you ask if they have anything else interesting going on. They may say, "Actually, I'm really struggling with another project. We've got a part on one of our products that keeps breaking, leading to returns." You could say, "Well, good luck with that." Or you could say, "Hey, we work with an excellent finite element analysis company who could look at the part stresses and then we could strengthen the part or look at a redesign for you." Even if no work comes from it, you're helping your client, which is never a bad thing. But if work does come from it, you've won extra business from asking a question and identifying an opportunity. Even if you work for a large company with a new business development team, they might not be at your meetings, seeing the opportunities you are. Finding new work from new clients is hard and it takes time because you have to build the relationship. But helping existing clients with extra jobs is far easier and mutually beneficial. This is the whole presentation. From first meeting the client and taking the brief to the small talk at the end. It's not just the bit in the middle where you show the client a series of concepts. Hopefully, you can see that the things I've shown you in this episode can be applied to any form of presentation you'll encounter as a product designer, including portfolio presentations. Improving presentations is endless, so I hope this has given you a foundation to build on, but there are loads of resources out there, way too much to cover in this video, so I've put loads of extras in the description, including lots of good links. In the next episode, I'll be covering portfolios. Thanks for watching, and as always, if you enjoyed this episode, please give it the thumbs up.